And first of all, I just want to say thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll probably continue to have a few folks trickle in here. But today we're going to be talking about the new time of use B rates for businesses, who EBCE is, those new rates, and then some potential energy measures you might take to lower your energy costs. My name is Danny Kelly. I'm an account services analyst here with East Bay Community Energy. I primarily work with our business customers to help them understand their usage and what's going on in the energy world. And I want to take this opportunity to allow my colleagues to introduce themselves as well. So why don't I hand it over to you, Kelly?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Kelly Brezovec, Senior Manager of Account Services here with EBCE. I'll be helping out behind the scenes today, answering any of their questions that may come in through the chat feature. Do feel free to use it at any time. Thanks. I'll pass it over to Noah.
Hello, I'm Noah Cordova. I'm a fellow with EBCE. I'll talk briefly to y'all about energy usage trends, and then Becky will talk more about energy efficiency. And Becky.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm getting over a cold, so forgive me for my Amy Winehouse cue voice. I'm the program manager for building electrification and energy efficiency. I'll be jumping in at the tail end to help offer some strategies for how you can manage your bill through efficiency measures.
Thanks all. And it is a relatively small group today, so feel free, if you'd like to come on video, come off mute, ask us questions, or type them in the chat. This is going to be our agenda for the day. We'll do, as I mentioned, a brief introduction to EBCE. I saw from the registration that some of you are familiar with the organization and others are not. So I'll quickly go into that. Then we'll talk about these new time of use business rates. We'll pause and do some questions and answers about those two things. Get to give away a couple of Oakland Roots tickets. And then we will jump back into the presentation and talk about some specific measures you might be interested in looking into, and then do an additional QA there. And then I'll share with you all an additional raffle opportunity to win a $50 bill credit with East Bay Community Energy. So as I mentioned, feel free to hold your questions until those two Q&A sections or type them in the chat as we go. We'll try to get those answered. I do see from the poll, thank you all for answering, that we have a mixed group today, about 2 retail, 2 office, and 2 others. So we will keep that in mind. So to begin, what is EBCE? Who are we? East Bay Community Energy, we're a local power supplier committed to providing Alameda County and the city of Tracy with cleaner, greener electricity at lower rates. We reinvest our earnings back into the community to create local green energy jobs, local energy programs, and clean power projects. In terms of how it works, EBCE buys the clean power. We are responsible for electricity generation, choosing where the electricity is sourced. PG&E continues to deliver that power. They're maintaining the wires, the poles and wires, and they still send you the bill. However, they no longer charge you for generating your electricity. They used to do both of these services. Now it has been split, where EBCE chooses where the power comes from and PG&E gets it to you. You still just receive one bill from PG&E. If you ever had an outage or you wanted to change your rate schedule, or you thought something was wrong with your smart meter, you would still contact PG&E for those things. If you wanted to change your power mix, where your electricity is being generated, then you would contact East Bay Community Energy. And what this looks like on your bill, if you haven't noticed already, is that where before you might have just seen 2 charges for electric charges and gas charges, you'll now see 3, because the electric charge has been split out into the 2 pieces that were always there: PG&E's electric delivery charges and East Bay Community Energy's generation charges. And just to reiterate, it's not an additional line item. It's not an additional charge. It's just an unbundling of a previous charge. And if you dive deeper into your bill, You can see exactly what goes into the EBCE charges, whether it's demand charges for your business or just pure kilowatt hour charges. You can see which generation mix you're enrolled in with EBCE. This customer would be on our Bright Choice rate. And because that is our savings rate, you can see exactly how much you save per month with EBCE there. If you were on our premium option, which I'll discuss later, you would see exactly how much more you're paying for our 100% renewable option. To go back into who we are serving, EBCE serves Alameda County as well as the city of Tracy in San Joaquin County. We began serving the areas in green back in 2018, and Newark, Pleasanton, and Tracy just joined us last month in April 2021. And the only exception to the county is the island of Alameda, which has its own electricity service over there and therefore has not joined East Bay Community Energy. So what are my options? With EBCE, as I mentioned, you actually have a few different power mixes you can choose from. Most customers would have been defaulted into our Bright Choice option. It's a little bit more renewable than the state requirement, about at least 5% more renewable. And it's 1% below PG&E's rate. So a little cleaner, and you save a little bit of money on that Bright Choice option. There's a middle option called Brilliant 100, which is actually going away at the end of this calendar year. And that's 100% carbon-free energy. And it's the exact same price as PG&E's rate. That option, while it's 100% carbon-free, it does include large hydro electricity, which while it is carbon-free, it's not considered renewable by the state of California. And so then our premium option is our Renewable 100 option, which is all California wind and solar at a premium of 1 cent per kilowatt hour above PG&E's rates. So those are our three options with EBCE that you might choose. And I encourage you to take a look to see which option you are enrolled on to date, and figure out whether or not that's the best choice for you and your business. So that's a brief introduction to East Bay Community Energy. As I mentioned, we're the default provider for those areas. So if you previously thought you were on PG&E's generation service, chances are you are automatically switched over to ours. So I do recommend you take a look at your energy bill if it's been a while and see if you are a customer, or you can always reach out to us and we'll let you know. But we are serving, about 95% of those areas I showed you. So getting into these new time of use business rates, I just wanted to take a step back first and ask ourselves, why are we going to time of use rates? Why is the state of California, not just EBCE or PG&E, the entire state is switching residents to time of use rates, and businesses, while many of them have been on time of use rates, we're readjusting those time of use rates and further enhancing that. So why are we doing it? And the first reason is it reflects the market cost. The price of energy changes seasonally as well as throughout the day. And a lot of this is due to the many cheap renewables that California and the West Coast have available to us. However, as we know, much of those renewables come from solar and wind, which are time and seasonally dependent. So this graph here on the right, I think, is a very good indication of the supply and demand and how renewables play into that. You can see in the teal graph, the overall demand on a given day in May 18th, 2021. And then that purple graph shows you, after we take into account all the solar and wind we have online, that's the remaining demand left over. So you can see in the middle of the day there, when the sun is shining, our demand really drops, which lowers energy prices very significantly. So by using time of use rates, customers can take advantage of these lower rates and save money themselves if they're able to shift their electricity use at all to when it's cheaper for us to procure it. And then, because these are renewables that are largely dropping the demand so low, the CO2 trend, the emissions associated with the energy, is also quite low in the middle of the day. So by incentivizing using energy in the middle of the day or avoiding peak periods, we incentivize using energy when it is both cleanest and cheapest, which can save customers and the state emissions and dollars. So that's the the broad look at time of use rates. Now let's get into the specifics of PG&E's new business rates, the B rates. You might have been familiar with these old rates listed here on the left for your business. A1, A6, and A10 rates were typically associated with lower usage or medium usage businesses. And then the E19 and E20 rates were for large electricity users. And the rate roadmap here just shows you that, whatever your previous number was, put a B in front of that, and that's likely your new rate schedule. These rate schedules are determined by PG&E based off your usage. And when your rate schedule changes with PG&E, it automatically updates and changes with East Bay Community Energy. So I encourage you to take a look at your PG&E portal or your bill, see which rate schedule you're on, to make sure you're familiar with the proper rate. There have also been some seasonal changes that were implemented with these new B rates, which became, I should mention, they became effective March 2021 as the default for most customers. So business customers were automatically transitioned off those old A and E rates to these B rates just a couple months ago. And with that, there were some seasonal changes where the summer season has been shortened, as you can see here, starting in June and going all the way through September. And there's a new spring period from March through May, which has a super off-peak rate during the hours of the day when the sun is shining. And it's a greatly reduced electric rate, where if you can shift your energy usage to that time, costs are quite cheap. So it's a great incentive for you to use energy when we see it's cheap in those months. And then in terms of the time periods for the different seasons, you'll see that dark blue color there shows from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. year round. That'll be our peak period on these B rates. So if at all possible, try to avoid or reduce using electricity from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then, as I mentioned, there's that extra savings opportunity from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the spring period from March through May, which is that super off-peak period. And the price differential for the different rate schedules, it will change based off the rate schedule and the season. And we have, we've created these illustrations to help you better visualize that for all the different rate schedules on this link I have listed here at the bottom of the page. And we will be sharing these slides, so you'll be able to see those directly. But as you can see, for a small business rate schedule, the B1 rate schedule here, during the summertime, the off-peak rate, the peak rate becomes 27% more expensive than the off-peak rate from that 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. period. And then in the wintertime, it's a little bit less of a substantial jump. It jumps just 7% during the peak period, but it also drops an additional 7% during the super off-peak period during the spring. So that is the basic overview of these new business rates. And now I want to hand it over to Noah to talk about what a typical load profile and load shape might look like for a retail customer, for example.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. So yeah, just keeping in the thought of what it looks like, what the time of use rates will actually do and mean for your usage. On the right here is a typical average 24-hour load shape for retail customers in our service territory. What this essentially is just energy usage or electricity usage throughout the day mapped. So on the y-axis, we have the usage, and then on the bottom, there's the hour of the day. And that blue period you can see is outlined. The darker blue period is that 4 to 9 time period when energy is most intensive, most in demand, and also most expensive. And so this information is specific to retail customers, but this is something to keep in mind and a visual that's helpful for everyone. So retail customers, energy usage, as you can see, kind of ramps up throughout the day into the midday and peaks around 4 p.m. kind of in right, at the peak of that time period. It's largely dictated by daytime shopping hours and operating hours, and pretty, intuitively, there's opportunities to reduce costs and reduce energy usage by shifting some of that 4 to 9 usage into the earlier period. Even though the energy usage is still pretty high in that period, costs are going to be lower. You could potentially save a little bit of money doing it that way. But this is just something to keep in mind in terms of an energy profile and what that actually looks like in terms of when energy is most expensive. Back to Dean.
All right, thank you, Noah. And now I want to, as I mentioned before, I want to take a brief pause there and answer questions that folks may have either about who East Bay Community Energy is or just about these new business time of use rates in general. And I do see one question in the chat that asks, can we opt out of the TOU plan? My business hours are from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm closed during the other hours. Unfortunately, these new business rate plans are not optional. There is no flat rate plan available for businesses. There is a coinciding residential time of use rate transitioning happening right now, and those are optional for the time being. But for businesses, you must be enrolled in a time of use rate. And while I understand that it is impossible for many businesses to avoid using electricity during those peak hours, that's not entirely what we're promoting here. We're just trying to spread awareness that the costs of energy do change throughout the day. And so California is adopting a model that better aligns to cost to serve rather than charging just a flat rate throughout the day. But while the peak periods are from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., that inherently means that outside of those hours, those are off-peak periods, so lower costs. I see another question here for grocery. Do you recommend a specific plan? So I just want to reiterate that with these rate schedules for businesses, they are determined by, for the most part, they're determined by how much electricity you use, and they're determined by PG&E. So PG&E sees, how much energy you use, and they assign you a rate schedule, whether you're small usage, medium usage, large usage. So there isn't really much choice in which, rate schedule you're on for business rates. I guess I would leave it at that. But if you would like to check in with PG&E on which rate schedule you're on, I do encourage that, and you can actually do that through your PG&E portal as well. And if there are other rates available to you, they'll be listed there. And yes, that's another good point. I see Becky's comment in the chat that the first half of our presentation today is just talking about the rates. And then the second half is going to be about measures you can take to either shift load where possible, or to just reduce your energy usage, which will obviously reduce your bill.
Mm-hmm. Although I will also add, my offer to connect offline will be to navigate efficiency options. As Danny mentioned, if you have questions about whether or not you've been assigned the rate schedule that is the best for your business, likely those would be questions to direct to PG&E. Is that correct, Danny?
That's right. Any other questions for now? Feel free to add them in the chat, or come off mute and let us know. If not, I can move us along to our Oakland Roots ticket raffle here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. All right, I have this random name picker here. I want to make sure I get everyone's names entered in before I go ahead and run it to see who wins. Okay, I see Ranjit, Manny, Jennifer, Joe, Hui, Rabash. Sorry. Apologies for my pronunciations. I think that should be everyone. So drum roll, please. We'll roll to see who gets 2 Oakland Roots tickets here. Thank you.
Best I can do for you.
And we have Ranjit. Congratulations, Ranjit. The Oakland Roots are a local soccer club. They're a Division II soccer club that plays at Laney College in downtown Oakland. The games are a whole lot of fun. They just launched a few years ago, and EBCE is a proud sponsor of the Oakland Roots. So I will give you an email after this meeting, and we will connect with you to get you those 2 tickets.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, let me go ahead and get the slides back up here. Okay, should be back in action now. Let's move on to the second half of our presentation, and feel free to keep the questions coming in the chat as you think of them. I'll hand it over to Becky.
Great. So now we're moving into more of the strategies that you can use to manage your bill. As we start, I wanted to mention there are a few programs that we're highlighting that EBCE offers. The first is the Resilient Home Program. This is currently available only for a residential audience, so keep this in mind for an option for your home. But this program offers solar and battery backup installations for customers. It's currently available only for customers who do not have existing solar. If you're interested in adding a storage system to your existing solar, drop us a line at localprograms@ebce.org, and we can put you on the wait list for when we enroll that program. The other program I wanted to mention is our commercial induction rebate program. This is really credit to Noah on our team for helping to get this program launched. But we are offering rebates for replacing existing natural gas infrastructure with induction ranges in commercial kitchens. This rebate also applies for the installation of new induction rebates. So if that's of interest, I'll drop the link to where you can find, or maybe Noah, if I could ask you to drop the link for the program webpage into the chat so that if anyone's interested, they can follow up. And we just also have some general peak management tips. I mean, if you're one of those businesses that really only can operate from 4 to 8 p.m., I realize that this might not apply to you, but for the remainder who have businesses that operate throughout the day, identifying whatever energy intensive operations you can shift outside about 4 to 9 p.m. period, maybe stack up dishes and wash those later if you have that option. Cycle down your HVAC system. If you run your HVAC extra from 12 to 3, and then you can lower the temperature from 4 to 9, that's another possible strategy. Pre-stocking your walk-in so that you're not opening and closing the door a lot during that 4 to 9 p.m. period, and helping it to run as efficiently as possible. Just whatever strategies you can employ to try to minimize the more energy intensive business work. And then of course, whatever you can do to reduce your base load, which we'll talk about in a second, will help also with your general bill management. By base load, what I mean is those appliances, those business practices that are always running. If you can keep those business practices running with less energy input through energy efficiency, that should help create room in that peak period so that you can shelter yourself a little bit from those increased costs. And then of course, if you have the option to add either solar and storage, those are good strategies to pair with peak management, since they will help to generate storage when the sun is shining and then you can dispatch that storage to run your business operations during peak from 4 to 9 p.m. Obviously, that's a more expensive measure, not something that everybody can take advantage of. But let's break down the efficiency options a little bit. We've tried to target most of these next 3 slides to what we think would be a good fit for retail. But since I did see that there are some folks representing office buildings that are also in attendance today, we thought we would mention this one. Plug load, basically anything that you plug into a wall, particularly in office environments. This is the fastest growing end use of energy that we see in most office environments. And that means also it's a really great opportunity for energy efficiency. There are some low cost, easy to install solutions to help you manage your plug load. Smart power strips. A lot of times you'll see power strips that are out there now where there is a control load plug and then accessory load plugs. This is really great if you have a computer system, excuse me, and there's a lot of accessory loads that run associated with that computer. So your monitors, if you have any task lighting, if you have a speaker system, if you have a webcam, anything that needs to be plugged in that you only need to be running when you have that computer running, these smart power strips are a really great way to manage your use. You plug the computer into the primary load, you plug all the accessory loads into the rest of the power strip, and then whenever you turn off your computer, it automatically cuts power to everything else. And that's a way to make sure that you are really managing all of the things that could be plugged into the wall. Of course, upgrading the efficiency of your equipment is also a really great strategy. If you just make sure that your computers, monitors, anything you have plugged into the wall, like a water cooler, like appliances in your office environment, if you get those upgraded to the most efficient option, then you're going to be reducing overall your energy consumption and creating more space on your bill for those increased costs during the 4 to 9 p.m. time frame. There's a link. We will be sharing this presentation, and there's a link embedded here specific to tenants. I know quite a few of the commercial office spaces are tenant occupied, and you may have limitations around how much of the appliances, for example, you have control over. So this link is from Energy Star. Energy Star is a program of the Environmental Protection Agency. They certify high efficiency appliances. They offer a lot of management tips. It's a great resource. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about efficiency measures to consider that. Specifically, this one works well for tenants. Move to the next slide. HVAC, again, noting as I just did that many of you are likely not owner occupants of your space. I realize that replacing your HVAC may not be something that you have the ability to do. However, there are a number of things that you can do to help make the HVAC that you have in your building operate the most efficiently. All of my efficiency tips start with the easiest, cheapest, and then build up from there. So again, starting at the lowest in the loading order, anything you can do to seal your building envelope. By this, what we basically mean is that barrier between the exterior and your business. So a lot of times you can look around windows, there might be cracks around the windows that you can take care of through caulking, weather stripping. If you have a door that opens or closes, frequently in commercial environments, you can actually even see a gap underneath that door. You can get weather strips that will go on top of those doors and just help reduce the amount of exposure to that exterior air, basically ensuring that you're only heating or cooling the space within your environment, which helps your HVAC operate more efficiently. If you have a space where there's a lot of windows, particularly windows that are exposed to afternoon sunshine, when you're expecting you might have to cool more because of that sunshine coming in, that's a really great opportunity to install window covers, shades, anything to reduce what we call the insulation, the energy coming from the sun, so that you reduce then your need for heating or cooling the space. Programmable thermostats are a really wonderful option. I encourage anyone who doesn't already have either an energy management system and or programmable thermostats installed to explore that. They're great both because they take the guesswork out of where is my HVAC set point at, but you can also potentially enroll those in programs that PG&E or other third parties offer where they can adjust your thermostat set points remotely when there's a peak event, and therefore you don't even have to think about reducing your usage during that 4 to 8 p.m. time. The thermostat can be handling that for you. Usually those are programs you can override. If you get complaints from either your staff or customers about comfort level, you can go and adjust those set points manually yourself. But they're a really great way to just make sure that the conditioning of your building is done in a way that will match best to when energy is expensive or cheap. Along with energy management systems, retro commissioning and building controls are great ways that you can control. This works especially good in office environments. For example, if you have a conference room that's not always occupied, you can get sensors installed so that the conditioning of that conference room matches the occupancy level, basically. When you have nobody in the conference room, maybe that's zoned so that there's less conditioning that's happening there. If you have a bunch of people in a conference room and they're really heating up the space, they can be like carbon monoxide sensors that can catch on to the occupancy of the room and can adjust the space conditioning. So obviously those are a little bit more expensive, but if you have a large building with complicated zoning requirements in your HVAC, some of those measures can pay themselves off in a year or two and are very much worth exploring and pair very well with load management that helps with these time of use rates. And then of course, finally, there are options for upgrading your HVAC equipment. We will have some slides at the end that have links to PG&E programs if if anyone here is interested. I think our last one, I noticed that there was a question on groceries. Lighting and refrigeration tend to be the single largest end uses in a grocery environment. And there are programs that support the upgrading of the efficiency of both of those things. Both lighting and refrigeration energy efficiency programs tend to be extremely cost effective, given that you have the lights on almost all day, you have the refrigeration on all the time. Upgrading the efficiency of that equipment can really save you a lot of money and a lot of energy as well. There's some things you can do without actually upgrading the efficiency. I mentioned earlier, making sure that you're stocking the fridge at the right time so that there's not a lot of opening and closing of doors. If you have walk-ins or deep refrigeration, deep storage in the back of the store, for any refrigeration unit, making sure that you're maintaining the unit. Refrigeration works best if it's clean. That's both the cleanliness of the unit itself, as well as the coils that you can find behind the fridge, making sure those are dusted, that they're free of dirt and obstructions. That'll help upgrade the efficiency of your unit without even having to do anything mechanically to the unit itself. And then if your refrigeration coils are located in a place where you have stocking, like if you have a lot of inventory around there, just make sure that there's space behind the coils. Refrigeration units pull ambient air in order to operate. So the more access to ambient air they have, the better they're going to operate. So just walking through your facility and making sure that the inventory is not crowding the space that the refrigeration coils are located is another low-cost way to make sure that you're getting the most out of your existing equipment. There are a number of retrofit measures that you can also install on your fridges. I mentioned the little door weather strips that you can do between your exterior building and the interior. You can get the same kind of thing for fridges, gaskets, that make sure you have a good strong seal so you're not losing any of that refrigerated air to the exterior environment. Automatic door closers so that if somebody accidentally leaves the door open while they're going for a product, the door will close itself. Another really low cost and easy thing. Controls. A lot of times refrigeration has motors that run along with it. Switching those over to variable frequency motors and variable frequency fans can be a low cost but high yield efficiency measure. And then this one's a little harder to sell, but if you have those refrigerated display cases that are just open air, consider getting curtains so that folks so that you're actually not, sending the cool refrigerated air out into your conditioned space, but you're maintaining it on the product that you need. That should also increase the efficiency of the system itself. We have a few, I think the next slide is a few resources. So there are 3 main program providers that operate in our service area. We have a program called the Demand Flex Market. I'm going to say right off the bat, this is a program that is a best fit for very large projects. So if you have a big project, a lot of efficiency gain that you anticipate, this tends to be good like refrigerated warehouses, large grocery stores, perhaps a very large office building if there's a big lighting retrofit that you can do. then this program could be a good fit for you. What you do have to know about this program is that we pay incentives to vendors based on the measured energy savings, meaning that those incentives don't happen until a year after the project is completed. So it's up to you to negotiate with the vendor themselves how you may see some of that incentive up front, if at all, for part of your project. If that doesn't sound like a good fit, I also want to mention that the Bay Area Regional Energy Network is a local government energy efficiency provider in our service area, and they focus specifically on a lot of hard to reach businesses, which include small business energy efficiency, where you may not see as huge of efficiency projects, but there's definitely savings to be had. They're a really great option as well for some of the smaller businesses in our service area. And they are also offering a microloan program at zero interest for up to $2,500. So they can help cover the cost of those projects as well if they're smaller projects. And then PG&E also offers many programs, either through their statewide programs or through a lot of emerging third-party programs that are just starting to launch. It's best to follow the PG&E website to get more information, because they have so many new programs launching every day that it's hard to keep track. So I recommend that you follow the links that we have here for the commercial efficiency program. They offer static rebates, where they have a rebate marketplace catalog. You can look through the different technologies, buy a product, send a receipt, and get a rebate for it. For the more complicated or larger scale projects, they have custom projects where someone will come work with you on developing a scope, figure out what makes sense. Again, that's a good fit for bigger projects. And then they also offer some financing options for customers as well, including 0% on bill financing up to $4 million. And then they have a small business financing program up to $5K, which has slightly better terms. So the links are embedded in the slide for all of these programs, and this will be sent to you after the fact. So I encourage you to follow up on any of those. And then if there are questions on the programs, what one's a good fit for my business, I can help now, or we dropped our local programs email in the chat, and I can follow up with anyone after the webinar as well. That is it for our prepared slides. Hand it to Danny.
Yeah, so just to recap on some next steps and resources, you can review your business operations, see what your specific load profile. Noah showed you a sample of, a blend of businesses for the retail sector, but logging into your PG&E portal or by reaching out to me, you can actually see exactly when and where you use your electricity. You might be surprised to see, if there's things you kind of sort of didn't realize were pulling a lot of electricity, and maybe come as a shock to you. So it's always good to review those things. And then contacting a contractor or a vendor, that the ones that Becky just mentioned, to see if there are some opportunities for you to make some improvements on site at little to no cost, or with a quick return of investment, might be beneficial to you as well. So with that, I'll pause again for questions and answers, and then I can share information on how to potentially win a $50 bill credit. So please type your questions in the chat or come off mute and say hello. Let us know what you thought of the presentation and ask any questions you may have had. Just in case someone is still typing, I will flip it over to our bill credit giveaway information while we wait. But essentially, if you go on your social media account, your business social media account, and you tag us at Powered by EBCE, you'll have a chance to win $50 off your next EBCE bill. You'll be entered into a raffle in the same way we did earlier with others that do so. So feel free to check us out and follow us and give us a tag. All right, still seeing no questions. I'm going to share our contact information. Once again, my name is Danny Kelly. I'm an account services analyst here, and I do work directly with our businesses. So you can see my email up in the top right there if you want to reach out directly. We also have our general call center email and phone number there as well. So please do reach out if questions arise. I will be sharing these slides, and I appreciate everyone joining, and hopefully you guys learned something about EBCE and energy and the new TOU business rates. Thanks very much.